13 minutes. That's how close one man came to stopping World War II before it really began. 13 minutes between Adolf Hitler walking out of a beer hall in Munich and a bomb exploding in that same building. 13 minutes that could have prevented 50 million deaths. November 8th, 1939, 9:20 p.m. The Burgerbraukeller beer hall in Munich is packed with old guard Nazis celebrating the anniversary of Hitler's failed 1923 putsch. Hitler has just finished his annual speech. He's walking out the door, heading to his train. Behind him, hidden inside a pillar near the speaker's podium, a bomb is ticking. It's set to explode at 9:20 p.m., right when Hitler should still be speaking. At 9:20 p.m., Hitler is in his car heading to the train station. At 9:20 p.m., the bomb explodes. 8 people die. 63 are injured. The roof collapses. The pillar disintegrates. If Hitler had been standing at the podium, he would have been killed instantly. But he wasn't there. He left 13 minutes early. This is the story of Georg Elser, a carpenter from a small German town who almost changed history. A man with no political party, no organization, no support. Just a bomb, a plan, and the conviction that Hitler needed to die. For the next 30 minutes, you'll learn how Elser spent a year planning the perfect assassination, how he built a sophisticated time bomb from scratch, how he hollowed out a pillar in one of Germany's most watched buildings, and how 13 minutes of bad luck condemned him to failure and the world to 5 more years of war. Most people have never heard of Georg Elser. History focuses on the July 20th, 1944 plot by German officers to kill Hitler, which also failed. But Elser acted alone 5 years earlier when the war was just beginning. His bomb worked perfectly. His timing was precise. His plan was brilliant. He came within 13 minutes of succeeding, and if he had succeeded, everything would be different. Poland had just fallen. The Western Front was quiet during the phony war. Germany hadn't invaded France yet. The Holocaust was just beginning. If Hitler had died on November 8th, 1939, the entire trajectory of World War II changes. But history isn't made by almost. It's made by 13 minutes. Let's go back to the beginning and meet Georg Elser. Georg Elser was born in 1903 in Hermeringen, a small village in southern Germany, working-class family. His father was a timber merchant and farmer. Georg learned carpentry as a young man, became skilled with wood and machinery. He worked in various clock factories and furniture workshops. By the 1930s, he was living in Königsbronn, working as a carpenter and clockmaker. He wasn't political in the traditional sense, never joined the Nazi Party, never joined the Communist Party. He didn't attend rallies or read political theory. He was just a working man watching his country change. But Georg Elser paid attention. He saw wages fall after the Nazis took power. He saw rearmament drain resources from workers. He heard Hitler's speeches promising war. He watched neighbors who spoke against the Nazis disappear. He saw Jewish businesses vandalized. He understood where this was heading. By 1938, Elser had concluded that Hitler would lead Germany into a catastrophic war. He believed someone had to stop him, and if nobody else would, he would. Elser didn't seek support. He didn't try to recruit others. He understood that in Nazi Germany, talking about killing Hitler would get you arrested before you could act. So he told no one. He would do this alone. In November 1938, Elser started planning. He attended the annual commemoration of the beer hall putsch at the Bürgerbräukeller in Munich. Every year on November 8th, Hitler gave a speech there celebrating the failed 1923 coup attempt that first made him famous. Every year, the old guard Nazis gathered. Every year, Hitler stood at the same podium. Elser observed everything. The security was tight, but routine. Guards checked attendees coming in, but once you were inside, you could move freely. The beer hall was large, with pillars supporting the roof. Hitler spoke from a raised platform. Behind the platform was a pillar, about 6 feet from where Hitler stood. Elser studied the pillar. It was thick, made of brick and covered with wood paneling. If you could hollow out the pillar and place a bomb inside, set to explode during Hitler's speech. You could kill him, and most of the senior Nazi leadership in one moment. That pillar became Elser's target. But hollowing out a pillar in a public beer hall isn't easy. The Burgerbraukeller was open for business most days and nights. It was in Munich, the heart of Nazi power. The building was watched. How do you spend dozens of hours secretly carving out a pillar without being discovered? Elser figured it out. In April 1939, he moved to Munich. He got a job at a quarry to earn money and gain access to explosives. He stole small amounts of dynamite over several months. Not enough to be noticed, just a few sticks at a time. He also stole blasting caps and powder. At night, Elser went to the Burgerbraukeller. He entered as a customer, bought a beer, sat at a table. The beer hall closed around midnight. Elser would go to the bathroom or hide in a storage area before closing, then emerge after the staff left. He'd work through the night hollowing out the pillar, then hide again before the staff arrived in the morning. He'd walk out when they opened for business as if he'd just arrived. He did this for 30 nights between August and November 1939. Every night, the same routine. Hide before closing. Wait for silence. Begin work. Chisel quietly into the brick behind the wooden paneling. Remove debris. Store it in a small suitcase. Work until dawn. Hide again. Walk out in the morning. 30 nights of slow, careful, silent carpentry inside a pillar in a Nazi beer hall. One mistake, one noise, one suspicious moment, and he'd be caught and executed immediately. He was never caught. By early November 1939, Elser had carved out a cavity in the pillar large enough to hold his bomb. He built the bomb himself. His experience as a clockmaker was crucial. He constructed 2 clock mechanisms as timers, redundant systems in case one failed. He connected the clocks to the blasting caps, which would detonate the dynamite. The bomb was sophisticated, not crude. Elser was a craftsman. He calculated exactly how much explosive he needed. He tested the timer mechanisms to ensure accuracy. He designed the bomb to create maximum blast effect in the direction of the podium. On November 5th, 1939, Elser installed the bomb inside the pillar. He set both timers for 9:20 p.m. on November 8th. That was the time when Hitler would be in the middle of his speech, standing less than 6 feet from the pillar. Then, Elser sealed the pillar. He replaced the wooden paneling perfectly. No visible damage, no trace of the cavity. The bomb was invisible, hidden in plain sight, ticking toward November 8th. Elser's work was done. Now, he had to leave Germany before the bomb exploded. If he was still in the country when Hitler died, the ensuing chaos would make escape impossible. On November 6th, Elser took a train towards the Swiss border. He carried false identification papers and some tools. His plan was to cross into Switzerland on November 8th, before the bomb exploded. By the time anyone realized what happened, he'd be safe in neutral Switzerland. But his luck had run out. November 8th, 1939. Evening. At the Burgerbraukeller, the annual commemoration is underway. Old Guard Nazis, the survivors of the 1923 putsch, gather to remember the failed coup that started the Nazi movement. The beer hall is packed. Security is present, but not unusual for this event. At 8 p.m., Hitler arrives. He takes the stage, begins his speech. The speech was normally scheduled to last until about 10 p.m. Hitler was known for long, rambling addresses. He'd speak for 2 hours, work the crowd, reminisce about the early days of the movement. The bomb was set for 9:20 p.m., right in the middle of when Hitler should be speaking. But tonight is different. Hitler is in a hurry. The war is only 2 months old. Poland has just fallen. The phony war is ongoing. Hitler wants to return to Berlin quickly to deal with military planning. He decides to shorten his speech and catch an earlier train. At 9:07 p.m., Hitler finishes his speech, 13 minutes ahead of schedule. He leaves the beer hall immediately, heading to the train station. His entourage follows. Most of the senior Nazi leaders leave with him. Some people stay behind. The celebration continues. Beer flows. Old comrades reminisce. At 9:20 p.m., the bomb explodes. The blast is massive. The pillar disintegrates. The roof collapses. Debris flies everywhere. 8 people are killed instantly. 63 are injured. The stage where Hitler stood minutes earlier is buried under rubble. The force of the explosion is exactly what Elser calculated. If Hitler had been there, he would have died. But Hitler is at the train station, boarding his train to Berlin. He hears about the explosion minutes later via radio communication. His first reaction is fury. Someone tried to kill him. Someone penetrated security at one of the most sacred Nazi sites. Someone nearly succeeded. The Gestapo immediately begins investigating. Who did this? How did they do it? Was it a foreign plot? British intelligence? Communists? A conspiracy within the Nazi Party? At the Swiss border, Georg Elser is trying to cross into Switzerland. It's around 8:45 p.m. on November 8th. Elser approaches the border checkpoint near Konstanz. He shows his papers to the guards. They're routine checks. Thousands of people cross this border. But the guards notice something. Elser is nervous. He's sweating. His answers to questions are vague. They decide to search him. They find suspicious items, pieces of metal, wire, a postcard of the Burgerbraukeller, a Communist Party badge that Elser had kept from years earlier, though he'd never been a communist. The guards detain him for questioning. Standard procedure for suspicious travelers. They don't know about the bomb yet. The explosion hasn't happened. They're just following protocol. At 9:20 p.m., while Elser is being questioned at the border, the bomb explodes in Munich. Within minutes, the Gestapo connects the dots. The man detained at the Swiss border has materials related to bomb making. He has a postcard of the Burgerbraukeller. The explosion just happened at the Burgerbraukeller. This can't be coincidence. Elser is arrested and transferred to Munich. The interrogations begin. The Gestapo doesn't believe Elser acted alone. It's inconceivable to them that a lone carpenter could plan and execute such a sophisticated operation. They torture him for information about his co-conspirators. Who helped him? Who funded him? Was it the British? The Soviets? Elser tells the truth. He acted alone. He spent a year planning. He built the bomb himself. He hollowed out the pillar over 30 nights. No one helped him. No one knew. The Gestapo doesn't believe him. The torture intensifies. But no amount of torture produces co-conspirators because there aren't any. Elser genuinely acted alone. Eventually, even the Gestapo has to accept this impossible truth. One man, working alone, nearly killed Hitler and decapitated the Nazi leadership. Hitler is both furious and impressed. Furious that someone came so close, impressed by the audacity and skill of the attempt. He orders Elser kept alive. Hitler wants to stage a show trial after the war, blaming the British for the assassination attempt. Elser will be the star witness, forced to confess to a fabricated British plot. But the show trial never happens. The war goes on too long. Elser is held in Sachsenhausen concentration camp, then Dachau, special prisoner, isolated from other inmates, given better conditions than most prisoners, kept alive for Hitler's planned trial. On April 9, 1945, as Allied forces approach Dachau, the SS receives orders from Berlin. Eliminate Georg Elser. Hitler's regime is collapsing. The show trial will never happen. There's no more reason to keep Elser alive. Elser is taken from his cell and executed. Shot in the back of the neck. His body is cremated. The records say he died in an Allied bombing raid, but that's a lie. The Nazis murdered him just weeks before Germany surrendered. Georg Elser spent 5.5 years in concentration camps for an assassination attempt that failed by 13 minutes. Now, let's talk about the what if. November 8th, 1939, 9:20 p.m. If Hitler had been standing at the podium when the bomb exploded, he would have died. The blast was powerful enough. The placement was perfect. Elser's bomb worked exactly as designed. If Hitler dies on November 8th, 1939, what happens? The Nazi leadership would be in chaos. Hitler had no clear successor in November 1939. Goering was second in command, but he wasn't universally accepted. Himmler controlled the SS. Goebbels ran propaganda. The The military had its own hierarchy. Who takes control of Germany? A power struggle would likely follow. The Nazi Party might fragment. The military might seize control. There could be internal conflict, even civil war. With Hitler dead and Germany in chaos, would the Western powers negotiate peace? Poland has already fallen, but France hasn't been invaded yet. Could a post-Hitler German government negotiate a settlement? Give up Poland, avoid further war? It's possible. Not certain, but possible. The people around Hitler were fanatics, but many German generals were pragmatists. Without Hitler driving expansion, without Hitler's ideological obsession with Lebensraum and racial war, the military might accept a negotiated peace. The Holocaust was just beginning in November 1939. The systematic mass murder of 6 million Jews hadn't started yet. The death camps weren't built yet. If Hitler dies in November 1939 and the war ends shortly after, the Holocaust might not happen. Not on the scale it did. This is the magnitude of Elser's near success. 13 minutes that could have saved tens of millions of lives, could have prevented the Holocaust, could have spared entire cities from destruction, could have stopped the war before the worst of it happened. But 13 minutes is both very close and an eternity. Hitler left early. The bomb exploded perfectly. And the war continued for 5 more years, killing 50 million people. Georg Elser's story is tragic because he did everything right. His plan was brilliant. His execution was flawless. His bomb worked perfectly. He acted on his conscience when almost no one else in Germany was willing to risk everything to stop Hitler, and he failed by 13 minutes. There's a broader lesson here about individual action against tyranny. The July 20th, 1944 plot involved dozens of military officers, extensive planning, multiple resources. It failed because the bomb was placed poorly, and Hitler survived with minor injuries. Elser, working alone with hand tools and stolen dynamite, came much closer to success. Sometimes lone actors, driven by conscience rather than politics, can come closer to changing history than organized conspiracies. Elser didn't have resources or connections. He had skills, determination, and moral clarity. That was almost enough. After the war, West Germany slowly recognized Elser's courage. In the 1960s and 1970s, as Germans reckoned with their Nazi past, Elser became a symbol of individual resistance. He wasn't a military officer or politician. He was a carpenter who saw evil and acted against it. Today, there's a memorial to Georg Elser in Munich, near where the Burgerbraukeller once stood. There's a museum in his hometown. November 8th is sometimes called Elser Day in Germany. Students learn about him in schools. He's remembered as a man of conscience who almost changed history. But almost isn't enough. On November 8th, 1939, 13 minutes separated success from failure. 50 million lives hung on Hitler leaving a beer hall a few minutes early. That's how close the world came to a different path. That's how much 13 minutes can matter. While Georg Elser sat in a Gestapo cell being tortured, another drama was about to unfold. On November 30th, 1939, just 3 weeks after Elser's bomb exploded, the Soviet Union would invade Finland. The Winter War was about to begin. A tiny nation of 3.5 million people facing the Soviet colossus of 170 million. Everyone expected Finland to fall in weeks. Instead, the Finns would fight one of the most remarkable defensive campaigns in military history. Next episode, the Winter War begins. Soviet demands, Finnish refusal, November 30th invasion, early battles, how the Molotov cocktail got its name, and why Stalin's army, which should have crushed Finland easily, got a bloody nose instead. This is the story of David versus Goliath in the snow, of ski troops and snipers, of a small nation refusing to surrender. The Winter War, one of the most remarkable military stories of World War II. Subscribe. Because the Winter War will show you what happens when a smaller nation has terrain, weather, and determination on its side, when the aggressor underestimates the defender, and when cold can be as deadly as bullets. See, November 8th, 1939, 9:20 p.m., 1 bomb, 8 dead, One dictator who left 13 minutes early. This was the beer hall bomb. This was Georg Elser's almost. This was World War II.